Hello, everyone. Welcome to Gen AI Talkin' 10, brought to you by SS&C Blue Prism. I'm Brad. He's Satish. Let's get into it. So, Satish, how can you effectively leverage Gen AI at scale? And so here we're talking about the difference between human consumption of Gen AI and machine consumption of Gen AI. So, of course, where digital workers and process orchestration can leverage the benefits of Gen AI and do it on a broader level. But why don't you give us your thoughts on this? I think leveraging it at scale is definitely an important topic.
Yeah, thank you, Brad. Let me start with a couple of very simple example, right? Which is a process enhancement, right? Where you use Gen AI to refine and improve the process that has already been automated by RPA, but then you take it to the next level, at scale, right? So when I think of this, a customer example comes to mind. We are working with a very large insurance company, and we've done some POCs with them. One of the POCs was about solving invoice processing at scale, right? So they get about 300,000 invoices. They said, why don't we start with one department within the insurance company, one business unit, and let's try this out, right? This was 7 months ago, and we were successful at it. So in that particular department, they get about 300,000 invoices, right? So what they've done was these invoices, keep in mind, they're variable. They're coming from different suppliers, different vendors that they work with, etc. So, all the body shops they work with, all this kind of stuff, right? So the interesting thing was, of the 300,000 invoices, using the best available IDP OCR technology, they could handle only about 35%, which meant 65% was being handled by humans, right? And so that's a problem, right? Because we want to maximize that. And so Gen AI opened up the possibilities, but now they needed to do it at scale. And, while Gen AI can read unstructured documents, for example, but they need not humans, right? Well, what's the downstream processing once Gen AI reads the document, gets the insight? Somebody has to continue to process that invoice downstream. Maybe it has to go into a system. Maybe, the information has to be sent to somebody downstream, all of that. That's where digital workers come in, right? So the combination of Gen AI and automation and orchestration truly helped really bump up that invoice processing from 35% to north of, I think it was closer to 70%. We almost doubled overnight. We almost doubled the possibility of something like invoice processing. Our second example I'll give you is content generation. We always talk about Gen AI can be used in generating content such as emails and reports and responses and so on. And digital workers can, source and curate the data from anywhere, send and organize the communications and so on. Now, this example is that of a customer refund, right? It's great to be able to use Gen AI to look at a customer request for a refund and be able to figure out what they're asking, what product is it, how much is the refund that they're asking, right? And what's their sentiment and so on. That's great. But then what about processing that? What about responding to that customer? What about sending that response, almost immediately, as quickly as you can? How do you do that at scale without using digital workers? Human workers, of course you can use them, but it's expensive, it's slower, it's error prone, right? All those things you can easily address by using the combination of Gen AI and something like Blue Prism. The third example that comes to mind is customer service automation, right? We have been seeing, and Brad, you'll recognize what I'm about to say. We have been speaking to a lot of customers, and in almost all our conversations, we are seeing chatbots and virtual agents come up like never before, right? The number of times we hear customers want to use chatbots and virtual agents has gone up dramatically, especially with Gen AI. So the combination of the two again, right? Using chatbots and virtual agents with GenAI and then using RPA to increase containment, right? Because what is regarded as success when you use a chatbot and a virtual agent? It's the fact that you don't have to escalate to human agents as much. And so that measure, that KPI is called containment, right? How much can you contain the conversation inside of that virtual agent or chatbot without having to bring in a human, right? So you can do that more, even more with GenAI than you could, because GenAI can go grab data with the help of a Blue Prism digital worker and then be able to get the insight and then feed that to the chatbot or virtual agent so you don't have to involve the human, right? A couple more examples, but let me stop. I think that, there's an interesting angle around cloud services, for example.
Yeah. Before you dig into that, let me just throw in the point that as you use GenAI more and more, it exacerbates the need for governance, the need for transparency, for security, for all the things that we know are important. Right? There's new risk that comes with leveraging something like GenAI. And so the other benefit of doing it with digital workers as the resource that is provisioning GenAI when it needs it is you have that 100% audit trail. You have exception tracking. You have digital worker eyes on every output that comes out from GenAI. You have the ability to go and get a human involved with human in the loop processing. So you have all those things that are inherent in a digital workforce, and can do that all day long, 24/7, over the course of thousands of transactions that may happen in a single day. So I know we've probably belabored that point on this show, but I think it's really important to say that you do want to use GenAI at scale. You want to use it with your human workforce too, but when you get the real benefits is when you do it at scale, and digital workers are going to mitigate those risks while they're doing it.
And then throw in orchestration, because you need to move work around. I mean, it's really the work that gets moved around based on the skills and the capabilities of the humans, if there is human involvement, right? So somebody has to orchestrate that. And so it's really compelling. The GenAI itself is exciting, but when combined with automation and orchestration, it takes it to the next level. Yeah, one thing I was going to mention, right, which was the using of cloud-based services. Now, for the longest time, we know that cloud-based services really make it easy to get things going, etc. Especially with GenAI at scale, it's really critical, I think, because if you think about all these large providers that, especially if you need an LLM, right? All these large providers have spent billions of dollars creating LLMs. How do you get access to that? Well, through cloud-based services, so you can be built on a consumption basis. I mean, we take it for granted these days, but can you imagine a world in which you didn't have that? And how would you do that at scale then? Right. So by using cloud-based services, what we're seeing is companies can rapidly scale their GenAI and RPA workflows, right? The workflows that use WAL to meet the demand without significantly investing in infrastructure or any of the capabilities that the hardware even that they need, right? And so that's an important consideration. I think when it comes to
let the cloud providers buy the NVIDIA servers instead of you having to do it. That cost can add up pretty quickly.
That's right. Yeah. So, it's been great to see some of these capabilities, right, coming to bear, especially as we move beyond. One other consideration that I'll mention is, we are starting to see customers move beyond experimentation, right? They do that. That's when scale comes into picture. Because when they were doing POCs and when they were deploying smaller instances of their workflows just to test out something great. But when they move it into production, now you're taking something that you deployed for 50 or 100 users, and you're now deploying it for 100,000 users. How does that work, right? You have to think through, the scale, and what we did in a POC, will this work at scale?
Yeah. It's the gift that keeps on giving, right?
For sure.
Thanks everyone for joining us. We hope you check in to our next episode on Gen AI Talk in 10.